Hey, Shauna. So, why is it even important for us to play and be active from age 3 to age 93?
That is a good question, and one that we address with our guest today, Jennifer Konopaki, who is the Senior VP of Strategy and Business Development of a world class event. Olympic venue here in Calgary called WinSport. And she discusses what she calls physical literacy.
Which is sounds interesting. You'll have to listen to see what that means. But before we dive in, let's give a shout out to our Girls Talk Healthy Aging listener, Miss Patty Goway, and also remind our listeners that the Girls Talk Healthy Aging is now on YouTube. So go check it out. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, where we dive deep into pressing health and fitness issues facing aging women. I'm Allie Kerr.
And I'm Shauna Kaminsky. And together we'll bring candid conversations, expert advice, and personal stories that will inspire and empower you on your own wellness journey.
Jennifer, after I heard you speak at the women's luncheon, I just was so excited to have you on the podcast. So welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you could join us. Now, before we discuss this world-class facility that you spearhead, could we just dive right into why it's important to create safe and fun opportunities for communities to move? Because that's what your facility is all about.
Correct. Yes. I would say, well, first of all, I have to ask a clarifying question. Allie, are you on an exercise bike right now?
I'm on a walking pad.
Okay, I love that. So we are living our values.
Yep.
Yeah. I would say because we're born to move. We're designed to move, and as soon as we're born, I see it as a gift of discovery, and we go from crawling to tripping to skipping to hopping, and then to ultimately sprinting and running. And that can be symbolic in life and with the journey that we all find ourselves in, with the ups and the downs and the peaks and the valleys. And I find with kind of the forces and what life can throw at us, our ability and gift to move our body, and that's able-bodied and disabled, right? There's a lot of different modes and versions of movement that's available to everyone. And it's critical. It's critical to our health, and we are mentally, emotionally, socially, and physically, if you will, all connected. And we need to make sure we're exercising all realms of health on that front.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know the answer to this because I listened to one of your talks and I studied it as well as, but the term might be a little bit different, and that is physical literacy. So tell us a little bit about physical literacy.
Definitely. So I think in over a decade ago, it's much longer than a decade now. The concept and principle of physical literacy came to Canada from the UK. It was actually a paper that came out of the UK, and the concept is to look at motion and movement and physical competencies and the role that they play and how important it is, similar to like financial literacy or literacy in reading, like that. Those are critical elements for humans. But to look at physical literacy, very similar. And what physical literacy is, it's three main components. So it's the motivation, it's the confidence, and the competence. And those competence are the basic skills of, running, jumping, hopping, skipping, basic throwing, catching. And when they all, for a young person, come into play, and as I learn those basic skills and develop those competencies, and I start having fun, and I start to feel good about myself and have confidence, I'm going to put myself out into more environments, more situations. As a young girl, I'm going to go walk out and try soccer, or I'm going to have more confidence to try, football or all these different sports. And then as I start to experience success in these skills and the application of these skills, I'm then going to be motivated to do more and to keep going and open more doors for myself. And then you can see the continuum and how powerful that is for any child. And that is ultimately the power of sport. Can I tell a story?
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. We love the stories. Yes.
Okay. So there's a young boy, his name is Sawyer, and he had some serious physical disabilities, and he was in a wheelchair, and he wasn't really out in his community very much. And WinSport created this multi-sport uh, wheelchair program, and we offered it to the community. And the very cool concept. So the program was designed around mixed abilities. So you could have a child with a disability, and they could bring their aunt or their cousin or their friend or kids from the cul-de-sac, whether they're able-bodied or disabled. They would all come to this program and try a multitude of different sports within a wheelchair. Everyone's in a wheelchair. And Sawyer was like a rock star. And from the time he arrived and started participating in this program, but his mom was like overwhelmed the impact this had on Sawyer, being out in the community, feeling like a rock star, getting all this positive attention and validation and how amazing he is, and he can do all these sports and activities. And I can't remember what sport he's pursuing, but he's a couple years older now, and he's out in the community. He's part of a team, and it's just like the massive impact it had on him. And that's just right there, the power of sport and building those physical literacy and the power of confidence and realizing what you're capable of. So pretty warm spot in all of our hearts when we talk about Sawyer.
Yes.
And when you build confidence, that it changes your path of life. I mean, it really can change everything. Your relationships, your career choices, your just the people you interact with and the things that you do and the relationships that you have. So it's not a small thing.
So, yeah.
And what are the trends that you're seeing now in terms of physical literacy compared to even 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or when we were kids?
Well, I think it's put more weight on the value of the basic skills that I've referenced, and that there is building blocks and foundational skills that need to intentionally be facilitated. And out of those building blocks, in the future comes hockey players. In the future comes lacrosse and rugby and what have you players. But if you don't get that foundation, just like the foundation of reading, right? If you don't get the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, like those future building blocks are challenged, and they're never gonna be able to be as effective without the initial ingredients. So I think it helps educators, it helps parents, it helps coaches put more emphasis and more impact when it really counts at those young ages. Yeah, and then it helps us also stop looking at some kids that have real natural ability and talent and be like, oh, look at that kid. And then what we end up doing is putting all of our energy into the superstar. Whereas like, no, they're all superstars. They just need to be developed, right? And they need time, and everyone matures at a different age and stage.
Well, as a former educator, I've been out of education for 20 years. And when I was teaching, even at that point, we were having, education cutbacks in everything, and physical education was being cut back. So that impacts future health for children when they're not getting activity in schools. It's all the more important to be providing these opportunities for children within the community, because their future health is depending on their ability to develop the physical literacy, to fall in love with some kind of activity. so that because their future health depends on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it puts a lot more emphasis on play, right? And the power of play. And I think there's been an excellent movement over the last, again, decade around the role that play uh, fulfills in many people's lives at many ages and stages. And so like when you're playing or climbing a tree or climbing over a log or moving through rocks in a stream or learning how to skip on the sidewalk, like those are building blocks to human movement, and they all have an impact. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're more sedentary. It's the iPad kids, it's the computer kids, it's the video game kids. And
Yeah.
it's frightening.
We're going to interrupt this interview for just a second because we've got something we want to make sure that you know. If you're struggling with your health, with your fitness, if you don't know where to start or you know what to do and you're not doing it, we're here for you. And all you need to do to get our help is to reach out to Shauna and I at our email, sapodcast23@gmail.com. And we're happy to help and we will be in touch. Now back to the show.
It is concerning. And the one other point I want to make is seniors. So if you're elderly and you're at a different stage of your life and you slip on ice in a parking lot and you can catch yourself, recover, and not fall, that's physical literacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't, that's basic athleticism. Like if you're,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in your 70s and you're hiking and you trip over a rock and a root and you recover, that's physical literacy. And that is taking place at that stage of life, allowing you to continue to be active because of building blocks and competencies and skills you would have developed at a young age or a younger age. So that
Or
it's
that you're
Go ahead.
or that you're continuing or practicing now. Because I know with my ladies, I'm a trainer, and getting them to work on speed and their quickness and timing so that they can keep those quick reactions. Sometimes they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to work on do things at a slow pace. But that we talk about that. What's going to happen when you trip and you go to catch her? Are you going to be able to catch yourself? Are you going to be able to react? So yes. And I don't know if y'all have done any looking in your world of the impact of getting kids started younger and how doing activity and being active and how that impacts their activity as adults. Have you looked into that?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of research on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any like handy to reference appropriately right at my fingertips, but yeah, there's a lot of correlation. Yeah. And then I think back to your other comment around technology. So, it is very concerning. So I know what I know, and I've been preaching what I've been preaching within my own home for years and now I have teenagers, and it's a constant battle, right? And this generation is so sedentary, and they just have yeah. So the physical literacy, not everyone's an athlete. Not everyone sees themselves as, I'm good at X or Y, or I'm motivated to do X or Y. But I think that's where physical literacy is like, but you can hike, you can walk the dog, you can get out and be active, you can go camping with a family, you can do those things.
And our guest last week, she was just turning 80, and I call her like the rock star of fitness because she's been doing some kind of activity for 60, 70 years. And what I liked about our guest last week was, just like you said, she never ever considered herself as an athlete, but she had worked on those skills of physical literacy, and she was able to maintain it. And having said that, I think it's important, especially for our listeners that maybe haven't been active all their life, that it's not too late, because maybe they didn't get involved, or they didn't have opportunity, because there's a lot of reasons why people may not have had opportunity, but it's not too late. And let's dive into a little bit about what your facility actually offers. And maybe let's start with, first of all, you're going to tell us about WinSport, and then let's kind of go into what the offerings are for different age groups, so that we can encourage people to get active if they haven't been. So tell us about WinSport.
Sounds great. So we're the original location for the 1988 Winter Olympic Games in Calgary, Alberta. And here we are almost 40 years later, still a very active, vibrant campus. And the sports and offerings that we provide to the community today looks quite a bit different than obviously the original venues. But WinSport's pretty incredible. We offer programs and services and all kinds of entertainment and engagement from people from 3 years old to 93. And so you can come and ski and snowboard at any age. At the hill, we have a tube park, so that's a nice recreational activity you can come and do as a family, a good introduction to the outdoors or the winter, Canadian winter as a new Canadian. And we have 4 hockey arenas. So we've got hockey and ringette, we have sledge hockey, we have learn to programs, power skating. We have a mountain in the summer, we do downhill mountain biking. So you can come and go through one of our programs or camps, or just come as a family or a parent and a child and do downhill mountain biking. What else? We have all kinds of local sport clubs that train here for skiing or snowboarding. And then because of the facilities and the training opportunities, we also act as a pipeline for athletes that go on to the national team and compete at the Olympics.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty incredible. I was at this winter, I was at the base of the half pipe. So we have the only World Cup half pipe in Canada, and I'm watching and they're announcing all the Canadian athletes, and like I could recognize so many of them that grew up on this hill.
On the hill. Exactly.
And you're just, it's just amazing, right? And what they're doing at a human performance level and it's unique. It's incredible. Yeah.
Mind-boggling.
Yeah. And that's a testimony to the legacy of the games that were here like 30, almost 40 years ago.
And how common is it that an Olympic venue 40 years later would be as vibrant as WinSport is?
It's not easy. So you've got incredibly specific, unique facilities that are built for games at that level for, call it 14 days. And then you have to, following the games, embed yourself within the community and continue to be relevant and make those caliber of facilities accessible to the general community and public, and then also sustain and maintain that level of infrastructure over decades. It's a very challenging operating model. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're constantly grappling with sustainability and our ability to keep some of and we've had to close some venues. Like we had to close a track, we had to close the ski jumps. It's hard because there's not enough population, or there's not enough people interested in training, and the expense it costs to maintain and operate them is immense.
Yeah, we interviewed First Lady Abby Cox from Utah, and you were mentioning that Utah has a sister site or 2 sister sites to y'all in the U.S., and definitely she talked about just how they have kept those facilities up over the years, and I cannot imagine the cost. And yeah, that's but that's amazing that's been a priority.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, as a child, I was at Paskapoo, which was the venue before it became the Olympic venue. And then just to see the transition and new things happening even this year. Tell us about that.
Well, we're building a new day lodge. So what was originally built at the base of the ski hill for the Olympic Games was a media center. And so it was never built fit for purpose to act as a day lodge, and that's what we need, right? To be able to
Yes,
service
to
the
handle all the
community.
people.
Yeah. And we've made it work for many, many years. And the building was just at end of life, #1 capital project. And we've got funding through the federal government and the provincial government that allowed us to pursue our retro renovation and net new build for a day lodge. And so it's going to be green, accessible, inclusive. It's going to open within this year, and we're really excited. So we've really designed and built this building to be a community hub where everyone will come and feel like they belong and they feel welcomed. And it's going to be pretty beautiful. And it's going to have 2 sensory rooms for children with disabilities or children that need to have time to regulate, or nursing mothers will be able to use the sensory rooms. We've got a multi-faith room. We're going to have some multi-purpose spaces. We're going to have a big, brand new, beautiful rental shop for learners, because the learning experience to learn how to ski and snowboard, it's a bit clunky. And so it's been designed so we'll have really good flow and a good experience, and then nice connection from the indoor and outdoor environment. So it's a game changer. It's a game changer for Calgarians.
Tell us a little bit about this school that runs at WinSport, Jennifer.
Sounds good. It's called the National Sports School, and it's really unique in that the school is embedded within this campus. So you have this campus of all these incredible sport facilities and sport excellence. And then we operate in partnership with Palliser School Division, a school from grade 8 to grade 12, and for student athletes. And some of these students, because of the demands of sport that have increased over the last number of decades, can be away in Europe training like over 100 days a year. And so previously, some of these students, if they wanted to, because developmentally, you have to push yourself athletically to reach your potential, right? And if you miss those developmental windows, you can miss your potential in your sport. Well, we have to graduate. And so what the National Sports School does is offer this incredible, flexible, supportive learning environment that allows these students to pursue their goals athletically, but also excel academically. So it's really unique, and they're graduating successfully and reaching their goals athletically. And recently the IOC, so the International Olympic Committee, was in North America, and they were at WinSport, and they acknowledged to see how the campus has evolved and how our offerings to the community and sport have evolved over the decades. And in particular, the National Sports School was one element that they were really impressed by.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what an example to other facilities and Olympic venues, whether it be winter or summer, that could be morphed over time for grassroots through elite development, both sport and academic. That's wonderful. Yeah, I would say so. And I mean, obviously, I will be able to benefit my family and community because I live here. But our listeners, hopefully, they might not ever get to Calgary, but hopefully they will see the value in supporting or seeking out a similar type facility. Like, these are really important for. I never really thought about it when I sat and listened to your original, when I listened to you at first. It's like, wow, I never really thought of the impact of these big community facilities from a grassroots level in terms of physical literacy and what our future healthcare costs could be. Because if somebody falls in love with some kind of movement, that will impact their life for the better over the course of their life. So these facilities are so important.
Yeah. Well, I think that's how we see ourselves, as a place where we want people to feel like they belong and they're welcomed and they can develop that competency and confidence But ultimately, you develop those skills. That skill acquisition leads to more activity, which leads to that healthy, active lifestyle. And then you're managing your stress, you're detoxing your body, you're engaging with your family, you're out hiking with your grandma or what have you, you know,
Yeah.
and you're getting connected back with nature and creation and what that does for your health and wellness.
Yeah.
It gets you outside, and it provides adrenaline, and it's exhilarating, and let alone the muscle and strength and skill development. Like, the health benefits, as we know, are endless.
Yeah. The value of sport.
Yeah. And there is no high performance. There is no high performance unless there is grassroots and, that pathway. Yeah. People have to fall in love to dedicate their life to want to pursue like 0.01% best in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I was saying about our superstar 80-year-old that we spoke with last week, is that she is elite in that she has maintained activity all her life, and that is what we're looking for. There's not very many people that are going to be on the podium for Canada or whichever country, which would be awesome. Like but that is not the realistic goal. Is to get more people moving, and from that you'll get those podium moments from the very few.
Yeah. And you have a foundation where you've been exposed to a multitude of sports and activities at a young age that gives you the confidence in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s to pick up new sports or activities or recreational outings, right? And have, again, like what we're talking about, those building blocks that allows you to try curling at 49 for the first time in your life and feel good about it.
Well, I also think that sport is a precursor. The confidence that you build in sport probably allowed you to go for this big job that created leadership skills that allows people to do big things that are not necessarily related to sport.
Yes, there is all kinds of research. So it's an outrageously high number of women in C-suite positions, like it's 90th percentile, have played sports. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right there, right? So
Yeah.
you
That confidence. Yeah.
Yeah. And future leaders of your community and future mothers and wives that, have strong voices and are able to lead change and impact their community. It's an incredible vehicle for that. And I wasn't a good athlete. I worked my butt off. I worked really, really hard, and hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And so at a very young age, I learned if I apply myself and I work really hard and I'm an excellent team player and I develop leadership skills, I'm going to stay on the court. And I am going to create opportunities for myself, and I am going to positively impact those around me. And at a young age, I started to realize how I started to feel different. And sport was a vehicle that allowed me to see who I was and what I was capable of. And I remember the moments, And because I caught the fire at a really young age, I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta dedicate my life to helping other people realize what is possible and what they're capable of in their life.
Yeah. And your sport was volleyball, I think.
I played every sport. I played every single sport I could. And probably I have the softest spot in my heart for volleyball. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I was a swimmer as a kid. I swam for 12 years. I kind of gone back to it as a master, but it just teaches so much in terms of time management and teamwork and discipline and all the things that you learn to succeed at whatever level. You can then parlay into other pursuits. So the value of sport is invaluable, spoken from a athlete or a former athlete, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And I love
Okay.
that y'all are offering programs for different abilities. That I think that is good for anyone that participates in those groups is, I'm sure, getting all sorts of benefits, mental, emotional, social, physical, all the things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some pretty rewarding moments where you see new Canadians like are here, and they're becoming integrated into the Canadian climate. They've never seen snow. They've never seen ice. And to watch them like on skates on ice for the first time with their children, and it's unbelievable, right? Like such a simple thing, and it's such an impactful, it's so impactful.
Do
Yeah.
you get much opportunity to, get out and see this, or are you kind of buried in your office doing the work? Do you get to?
Yeah. I'm probably indoor more than I'd like to be, but in my time at WinSport, I have walked around the campus and I've been brought to tears.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because I can see a child. I've seen children within a couple minutes go from where they're at, they accomplish something physically, and they just light up and they feel validated and they're ready to take something on, right? And that's like in a moment.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, fun. If you
Yeah.
had a wish for our listeners today, what would it be, Jennifer?
I think my wish would be the power of little steps. So I think I would encourage everyone, if they are maybe a little more sedentary than they'd like to be, that it just takes one little step, which is maybe walking the dog or walking a bit further, or jogging a bit further, or what have you, whatever that is, and to recognize how powerful that is, because it is all about behavior and it is all about routine. And our bodies are so adaptable and resilient, right? So you do one little thing and then that adds to another little thing and another little thing. And then before you know it, you've set a goal and you're running a little marathon, or you're climbing 5 hikes, you're doing 5 hikes, whatever it is, right? But I think I would encourage everyone the power of getting off your phone and getting outside and taking a little step.
Great.
Yeah. And that really goes back to health, like mental health, emotional health, and the building blocks to become really physically healthy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Allie?
My wish would be that our listeners are in communities that value and support physical activity facilities. And if not, maybe get involved and encourage, if you have those facilities in your community, any kind of facility that promotes activity, to just help save it, help it to grow, prosper, and be there for this generation and future generations.
And mine would be similar to both of yours in that just check them out, especially if you're sedentary. They might be offering something that might be of interest to you. And so getting off the couch and off your phone and just taking a little risk to go check out what some of those facilities might offer for you, especially to our sedentary listeners. That little step is so important. That first one is the hardest, and they get easier from there.
Thanks for listening. You'll find me, Allie, on Instagram at Allie Curve Fitness.
And you'll find me, Shauna, on Instagram at Shauna Kaminsky. Feel free to pop us a DM with questions and or feedback.
If you're enjoying the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, please subscribe and share it with other health-minded women. Ratings and reviews are also much appreciated and help us get our message out to a larger audience.
Until next time, be healthy and be happy.